everyone, another Saturday, another underage film, and today I wanted to talk about Elizabeth. Now, for one, am a person who really likes biographical films. I think biographical films are really cool, actually. I'm actually looking forward to I believe it's Daniel Day-Lewis playing Abraham Lincoln, and they're going to do a biopic on that, and I'm really pumped for that. I'm excited. I really want to see that film at some point. I think it's still in the. I'm pretty sure that they're finished with it. It's just they haven't released it yet. It's probably not until late this year or early next year. I'm not sure how that's all going to work out, but I particularly like biopics that focus on historical figures like Abraham Lincoln, and this film in particular, Elizabeth, actually discusses Elizabeth I of England. Yes, the famous queen, who sometimes referred to as the Virgin Queen, who ruled England during the sort of late Renaissance-esque period, I believe like 1500s. And she reigned for quite some time. She ruled for a long time, and she's probably one of the most decorated of English royalty, compared to a lot of other famous kings and queens of England throughout history. And the reason why I think this film is somewhat underrated is just I haven't heard people really talk about it much. But it's got a really good cast, and a lot of good acting, a lot of good performances, an interesting plot, because Elizabeth I's life is very interesting, and you'll see sort of the sort of clash between Protestantism and Catholicism, and how this kind of rivalry ends up really affecting Elizabeth's reign when she takes over. Now, this film in particular focuses on right when her half-sister Mary I dies, and then it just kind of takes off from there. And that's basically when Elizabeth is the second one in line and is really the only one who can take the throne, so to speak. And basically, once she is taken into this life where she's supposed to be queen, you'll see how there's all these different struggles in being a queen, in particular of England. And what you also have to understand is that Elizabeth is a Protestant. She is a Protestant Christian. Mary was Catholic. And you'll see this in sort of the beginning of the film, where Mary doesn't really in particular care so much for Elizabeth, because there is this Catholic-Protestant rivalry going on during this time in Europe. So you'll see once Elizabeth takes over where there is this sort of uneasiness among people because of the fact that the Catholic Church doesn't really approve of her faith. And again, the Catholic Church has a lot of power during this time. So you kind of see her struggling with that, and also you'll see her struggle through assassination attempts. Also with love. She's supposed to marry the future king of France in order for them to make someone of pure blood royalty, and you'll obviously see that the guy she has to marry is kind of loopy, and it kind of leads to some funny moments, while at the same time there's a lot of sort of dramaticism as well. And for the most part, it tries to focus on her life at this point, and by this point it's really her taking the throne to that time when she kind of has a little bit of the hang of things as far as being queen is concerned. It just takes up not the whole chunk of her reign, but a good portion as to where it allows us to understand how she's able to sort of establish herself. And you'll see that she's a very intelligent woman, and she is probably one of the best out of royalty that I've seen, because she's very smart and she knows how to play with the politics, and it's nice to really see her stand up for herself. And I think Cate Blanchett does a really good job of bringing Elizabeth, the Virgin Queen, to us. What I can also say about this film is that it also has some other big names in it. Daniel Craig plays a little role, sort of, and he works for the Catholic Church, and you'll kind of see how his character comes in. But he's not so in it for so long compared to some of the other characters, like Sir Francis Walsingham, who's played by Geoffrey Rush. And Geoffrey Rush in this film is just awesome. I really like his character. And basically he kind of helps Elizabeth out. He's sort of like a advisor, and you'll see this once she starts to get herself in and to be established to become the queen. You'll see how she has these advisors, and Geoffrey Rush happens to be one of those top people, as well as William Cecil, who's played by Richard Attenborough, who is also one of the major advisors to her. But the interesting thing about him is that he's kind of a little bit clashy more with her. I think Geoffrey Rush is a little bit more open with their relationship and with like negotiation and things of that nature. But William Cecil in particular is someone who kind of wants to force Elizabeth to do certain things, because that's how tradition works. Like, he basically tells her, you have to get married, and you have to do this and you have to do that. And then towards the end of the film, you sort of realize how she wants to do her own thing, and she basically just tells Richard Attenborough's character, you know what, look, this is who I am. And basically that's what she does at the end of the film, and you will see this. And I think it shows the sort of different kinds of ways of people's thinking back then, and how maybe some people maybe wanted to progress more and move England into a more untraditional direction, and how some people wanted it to stay the same and have the Queen fill basically really the second role to the King, because they felt like a woman can't really run things. And you'll kind of see how she really stands out as far as women are concerned during this time period, and how she tries to make her own way. What's also interesting is not only does she not want to marry the future King of France, because he's a little bit, you'll see this, he's a little bit of a crazy character, but she also has feelings for this one guy named Robert Dudley, played by Joseph Fiennes, another big star who I believe starred in Shakespeare in Love as well. So you do kind of see how he's kind of playing that role again as that lover. But for the most part, you really do get the sense of her sort of personality and how all these characters sort of play in with her. It's a really character and historically based piece. And the costumes are really cool, even though they're a little bit odd at times. I just look at what people wore back then and I go, I could never wear that. That's just crazy what they wear, and all these like headpieces and things. But for the most part, it just takes you basically through this big, enormous chunk of her reign, where, and I mean by enormous, I mean very impacting part of her reign, because it really starts towards the beginning and then sort of heads in a direction and then stops at a certain point. And then you'll see that they also made sort of a sequel to this with Elizabeth the Golden Age, I believe. I think this one is probably the more superior one, because I think the stuff that she kind of deals with, I feel is a little bit more personal, and we get more of a personal biopic feel as to what's really going on within her life. Whereas the second one, I think, focuses more on like exterior things, and more upon her executing those things rather than on these really internal types of issues. Because this movie really focuses on kind of England and England's problems and how the outside world kind of invades into England's problems, in particular with the Pope and all these other things as well, and also the division between England itself and how some people in England are still devotedly Catholic and how some in England want to be Protestant. So you will see this kind of clash, and you will see sort of the brutality. This film starts really off as really very almost a little bit gruesome, because you will see these people who are being burnt at the stake for their Protestantism because Mary was against Protestants. So basically, I think that's really all I can say about this film. I think it's very engaging, and I really like the performances here, and I really feel invested as to what's going to happen and all of these kinds of twists and turns that go on in her life. And I think it's something definitely worth considering and definitely worth checking out. But I think that's really all I can say about this film. Any questions, comments, concerns, more than happy to answer them. And until next time.